Have you ever felt this way before? Someone who used to text you every day, call to check in, suddenly disappears. Your phone stays silent. No messages, no calls. And you start to wonder, what happened? Are they busy? Have they changed? Or did they simply forget about me? You don't say anything out loud, but inside, there's a quiet storm brewing. Worry, hurt, sadness. Sometimes you're angry, sometimes just empty. And sometimes you even blame yourself. But it's in that silence that we begin to confront our own fears. Still, does silence really mean they no longer care? Or maybe we're missing something deeper, a message hidden behind the quiet. In Zen and Buddhist teaching, silence is not an empty space. It's a powerful form of communication. Not everyone who walks away is rejecting you. Not everyone who stops texting has stopped caring. Sometimes they're simply drifting along the current of their own life. And sometimes it's us clinging too tightly to expectation. And maybe, just maybe, this silence is a precious invitation to look deeply into ourselves. Today, I'd like to take you on a gentle but eye-opening journey through 10 reflections, so we can better understand when someone stops texting or calling, what does it really mean? And how can we respond to that silence with peace, not pain? Part 1. Silence is not emptiness. There are days when you suddenly notice your phone has been quiet all afternoon. No calls, no messages. Someone who used to check in regularly, now just gone. And you begin to wonder, did I do something wrong? Do they still think of me? Or have they moved on? I've listened to many people, especially older students of the Dharma, share that feeling. Loneliness, abandonment. At best, it's sadness. At worst, a deep kind of pain. But here's the thing. From the lens of Zen and Buddhist wisdom, silence isn't something that needs to be filled by someone else. It's an opportunity to return inward and listen to yourself. I remember a man in his 60s, living alone after his wife passed away. One day, he told me, "Teacher, every day I just wait for my son to call. I know he's busy, but when he doesn't, I feel like I'm slowly disappearing." I looked at him and gently said, "It's not that others forget us. It's that we forget to look deeply into ourselves." Silence, if you're open to it, can be one of the greatest teachers. In that quiet space, you begin to notice your own cravings, your need for attention, your fear of being left behind, the feeling that if no one needs you, maybe you're not enough. But all of that comes from within. And only from within can we truly begin to heal. As the Buddha taught, be a lamp unto yourself. So when the world outside goes quiet, let that be the moment you come home to yourself. You are not missing anything. You are still you, whole, complete, whether anyone calls or not. Part 2. No one belongs to you. Letting go is understanding non-self. You know, one of the reasons we suffer when someone goes silent is because it feels like something has been taken from us. Like someone who once belonged to us is no longer there. But in the Buddhist teaching, no one truly belongs to anyone. People enter our lives through duyen, karmic connection, and they leave when that duyen fades. Nothing is forever, not even the presence of those we love most. There's an old story I always remember. A young student once asked the Buddha, "Bhante, I love someone very deeply. I want them to stay with me forever. Is there a way to keep them?" The Buddha smiled gently, picked up a falling flower, and asked, "Can you keep this flower fresh forever?" The student shook his head, and the Buddha said, "The one you love is like this flower, beautiful, precious, and impermanent. If you try to grasp it too tightly, it will wilt. But if you cherish it without clinging, it will live in your heart forever, not through possession, but through understanding." In life, we often confuse love with holding on. We think if someone cared, they must always stay, always text, always be there. But life doesn't work that way. Each of us has our own journey. They walk with us for a time, and then continue down their own path. Letting go doesn't mean the love disappears. It means we're releasing our grasp, our attachment. I once met an elderly woman, nearly 80, widowed, and her children living far away. She told me, "When I was young, I suffered because I believed that love meant someone had to stay. But now, in my old age, I understand. People come as guests. And the only thing I truly need to hold on to is the peace within my own heart." My friend, when you understand the nature of non-self, you'll see that you don't need to hold on to anyone in order to feel valuable or whole. You are still you, even if no one calls your name today. And those who are meant to stay will stay, not out of obligation, but through a natural, unforced love. And when you can let go, you'll find yourself feeling light, like a leaf floating gently on the wind, not falling, just free. Part 3. The ego's craving for attention, the root of our suffering. Someone once asked me, "Teacher, I don't ask for much. I just want them to remember me, to call once or twice a week. But why does it hurt so much when they don't anymore?" I looked into their eyes filled with quiet waiting, and I knew. It's not really the silence that hurts us. It's the ego inside us, crying out for attention. You see, the ego always wants to be noticed. It wants someone to remember us, call our name, send a message, just so it can say, "See, I still matter." But when that attention fades, the ego starts to panic. It questions everything, gets offended, feels abandoned. And yet, if you've ever cared for a tree, you'll understand something very simple. A tree doesn't need to be admired to grow. It doesn't ask, "How many people love me today?" It simply reaches for the light, quietly, steadily, even if no one notices. There's a saying in Zen that I love. A tree doesn't measure its worth by how many birds rest on its branches. But we humans, we often forget this. We give away our self-worth far too easily. If someone pays attention to us, we feel valuable. If they don't, we feel forgotten. But the Buddha taught, your value does not lie in the eyes of others, but in your own awakening. If you truly see your own worth, you don't need others to confirm it. If you love yourself the right way, you won't need to be loved in order to feel alive. I once met an older woman who lived alone through a harsh winter in Boston. No children, no family. Just a small garden and a statue of the Buddha in her yard. And yet, she lived with such peace. She told me, "I'm not lonely anymore because I no longer need anyone to remember me. I'm here and I'm enough." My friend, when you release that hunger to be noticed, you might be surprised to find peace never left you. It was only hidden behind the noise of your ego. Part 4. Be like the empty chair, still, no matter who comes or goes. There was a time, during a tea meditation session, when I shared one of my favorite stories. Long ago, in a quiet mountain temple, there lived an old Zen master. Outside his little hut was a simple wooden chair, no backrest, No carvings, just a plain empty seat. And yet every day, villagers came to sit there. Some came to talk. Some came to cry. Some just sat in silence and left without a word. The old master never called anyone to come. He never asked anyone to stay. He simply sat there beside the chair, smiling softly. One day, a young man asked, "Master, don't you feel sad when people come and go, and no one stays for long?" The master gently placed his hand on the chair and said, "Do you see this chair? It doesn't chase anyone. It just stays where it is, welcoming those who come, releasing those who leave, all in silence. And no matter who sits or walks away, it remains whole." Dear friend, life is just like that. There will be people who walk with us for a season. They come, they share beautiful moments, and then one day, they disappear into silence. If we don't learn to sit still like the chair, we will always be waiting, always hurting, always wondering why they left. If someone comes, open your heart to welcome them. If someone leaves, release them with grace. But you stay with yourself. Don't let someone's presence or absence shake the ground beneath your soul. The chair doesn't feel happy when someone sits. It doesn't feel lonely when they leave. It just rests in its own being. And that, my friend, is something I hope you'll learn from this message. When you stop chasing, stop clinging, stop resenting, you begin to discover a kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. It's a quiet, beautiful kind of peace, one that asks for nothing and lacks nothing. Part 5. Silence as a gentle teaching on impermanence. One of the things I've learned over decades of spiritual practice and listening to people's stories is this: everything changes. Things we once thought would last forever slowly fade. People who once held our hands so tightly grow distant, fall silent. And it's not always because they stopped caring. It's simply because life moves, like a river that never stands still. In the Buddhist teaching, we call this impermanence. Everything, emotions, relationships, even the people closest to our hearts, shifts with time. And when we understand that truth, we suffer less when someone quietly walks away. I remember a woman in her 70s came to the temple once, her eyes filled with tears. She said, "Teacher, my best friend of over 30 years suddenly stopped calling. I feel like I've lost a piece of myself." I gently asked her, "Do you remember long ago waiting for someone to call and eventually they didn't?" She nodded. And I said, "But here you are, still living, still breathing, still capable of loving and letting go. That friend shared 30 beautiful years with you. That's a deep blessing. Now, they're continuing on their own journey. And you too can smile and keep walking yours." Dear friend, silence isn't a slammed door. It's a new page being turned. When someone stops texting, stops calling, you might see it as the end. But through the eyes of mindfulness, it's simply a quiet pause in life's music, making space for a deeper rhythm to begin. Impermanence isn't meant to make us sad. It's a gift that teaches us to appreciate. Because nothing is guaranteed, every moment of presence becomes sacred. Because no one stays forever, every shared moment becomes precious. Silence teaches us this, not through words, but through its quiet shifts, like wind gliding across the surface of a still lake. If you're listening to this while feeling alone, please remember, impermanence doesn't take anything from you. It simply returns everything to its proper place in the flow of karma and grace. Part 6. Silence is a form of priority, not always a rejection. There's a common misunderstanding, especially as we get older, that when someone stops calling, it must mean they no longer care. And from there, we begin to suffer. But dear friend, silence isn't always a rejection. Often, it's just a reflection of life taking someone in a different direction. I have an old friend I used to talk to every week. For over 10 years, we shared everything. Long phone calls, laughter, even tears. Then one day, they moved away, got a new job, and life became heavier. Calls became fewer, messages shorter, colder. I even asked myself, did I do something wrong? But 3 years later, we met again by chance. They held my hand and said, I never forgot you. Life just became a whirlwind. And honestly, I didn't even know how to begin reaching out. That day, I understood something. Some people love us deeply, but no longer have the energy to express it. Not because the love is gone, but because they're busy prioritizing something else that urgently needs their attention. Since then, I no longer feel sad when someone goes quiet. I've learned to send silent goodwill, without expectation. No message is needed to know someone still values you. No daily calls are needed to know love hasn't disappeared. Everyone is navigating their own life. Some are caring for aging parents. Some are struggling with work, illness, or relationships. Some are just exhausted, unsure of what to say or how to say it. And when we truly understand that, we stop blaming. We stop thinking we've been left behind. We begin to see silence can also be a healthy distance, a space for both people to breathe, to live, to heal. So, next time a longtime friend goes silent, smile gently and whisper to yourself, maybe they're choosing what they need right now. And I can also choose peace for myself. Part 7. Don't measure your worth by someone else's presence. One of the habits that causes us pain, though we rarely notice it, is this. We measure our own worth by whether others still remember us. If someone calls every week, we feel loved. If someone stops messaging, we feel forgotten. And just like that, our sense of value goes up and down depending on how others treat us. It's as if we're an object only shining when someone looks at us, fading when they don't. But dear friend, you are not an object. You are a living being, a beautiful soul whose worth comes from your very presence. I once sat with an older man who had retired and now lived alone in a quiet countryside. He told me, back when I was working, friends called all the time. Everyone needed something from me, but after retirement, my phone barely rings. Sometimes, I feel like I've disappeared. I looked at him and said, have you noticed the sun still rises each morning, whether anyone watches it or not? The flowers in your garden still bloom, even if no one praises them or takes a photo. He went quiet for a moment, then slowly nodded. The truth is, when we depend on other people's attention to feel worthy, we lose our center. All it takes is for someone to turn away, and suddenly, we feel small, invisible. But that's not how the Buddha taught us to live. The Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. When you understand this, you stop waiting for others to light your way. You learn to shine on your own in silence, with peace. It's okay if no one calls. It's okay if no one checks in. You are still, you whole, valuable, and complete, whether anyone notices or not. A tree doesn't need admirers to bloom. The moon doesn't need praise to be full on the night of the full moon. And you don't need approval to know you are worthy of love. Part 8. Let love be like the tide. Let it come and go freely. I often tell older students in the temple, love is like the tide. Sometimes it rises with warmth and closeness. Other times, it gently pulls away, cool and distant. But the real reason we suffer isn't because love changes. It's because we want to hold on to what once felt beautiful forever. One afternoon, a woman quietly told me, "Teacher, my best friend from high school, we've been close for nearly 50 years. But lately, she doesn't call or text anymore. I feel like I've lost a part of myself." I asked her, "In those 50 years, weren't there times when the two of you drifted apart and then came close again?" She nodded, eyes misty. "Then maybe this is just another low tide. But low tide doesn't mean it's gone. Maybe it's just giving you space to understand what this friendship really means to you now." Love, like breath, cannot be forced. The more tightly you hold it, the more it slips away. The more you cling to someone, the more they want to leave. But if you let people come and go like the wind, like the sea, you'll find that it doesn't hurt so much. Because you're not clinging. Because you love without needing to possess. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The world is bound by desire, but one who has let go is free like the wind." I love that image. The wind cannot be held in your hands. And those you love, if you truly cherish them, you'll give them freedom. And sometimes that very freedom is what brings them back, like waves that always return to shore. Dear friend, let people arrive in your life as gifts with no expectations. And let them go like flowing water with no blame. Because the longer we live, the more we realize letting someone go is often the most loving way to stay true to ourselves. Part 9. A calm mind is the ground that cannot be shaken by absence. Someone once asked me, "Teacher, is there a way not to feel sad when someone I love suddenly disappears from my life?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I invited them to sit down, poured a cup of tea, and stayed silent for a while. Then I said, "Do you notice the cup of tea in front of you? Even if no one compliments it, even if no one drinks it, it remains itself. It hasn't gained or lost anything. The same is true with the mind. If your heart is steady, no one can truly shake it." In Buddhism, there's a truth we gradually realize through years of practice. No one can hurt you more than an unsettled mind of your own. We suffer not because others forget us, but because we demand to be remembered. We feel sad not because someone left, but because we clung to their presence as if it were essential to our happiness. But if you've ever sat by a still lake, you'll understand. If no wind stirs, the surface stays calm, and that windets your own mind. A calm mind doesn't panic when someone disappears. A calm mind smiles when people command, still smiles when they go. I once met an elderly man who had lived alone for over 20 years. No wife, no children, no close relatives. Yet he lived joyfully and mindfully. I asked him, "Don't you ever feel lonely?" He laughed softly and replied, "Loneliness belongs to other people. I'm here spending time with myself every single day." Strange, isn't it? When your heart is still, you no longer feel incomplete when someone leaves. Because the most important presence is your own presence with yourself. A strong person isn't someone who never feels pain. They're someone who learns to walk through pain with peace. No craving, nothing is missing. No clinging, nothing is lost. So, dear friend, if someone who was once close has now become distant, don't rush to feel sad. Just keep your mind steady, and then it won't matter who stays or leaves. Because true happiness is this: no matter who comes or goes, you are fully present with yourself, moment by moment. Part 10. Silence. The quietest teacher with the deepest lessons. If you asked me, who is the deepest teacher in your entire journey of spiritual practice, I wouldn't name a famous Zen master or a renowned Dharma teacher. I would say it was silence, because only in silence did I truly hear what my heart was trying to say. Only in silence did I begin to see what was real and what was illusion. Only in silence did I learn how to love without attachment and let go without feeling loss. Dear friend, most of us fear silence if it's a frightening void. But what we forget is, silence is like an old wise teacher. It speaks no words, but holds immense compassion. It doesn't push you to understand right away. It doesn't explain in long lectures. It just sits quietly waiting for you to be still enough to realize for yourself. Some people leave our lives without a single word. No goodbye. No explanation. Not even a clue. At first, we feel hurt. But over time, we feel gratitude. Because it is through that silent departure that we begin a journey inward, a journey of finally meeting ourselves. In silence, you realize you wanted them to stay because you feared being alone. You felt angry when they didn't call your name because you hadn't yet seen your own worth. You hurt when they stopped speaking because you hadn't learned to be whole on your own. And then one day, you're sitting there. No voices, no messages, just you with yourself. But now, you smile. Not because someone returned, but because you're no longer afraid. You understand that silence was never against you. It was simply waiting patiently for you to become its student. Dear friend, if you're living through a quiet moment in your life, don't rush it away. Sit with it, breathe with it, smile with it, because perhaps in this very silence, you're learning the most important lesson of your life, the lesson of inner freedom. We've traveled a long way together, from moments of aching silence to glimpses of peace rising quietly within. If there is someone you still carry in your heart, someone who hasn't called in a long while, smile and offer gratitude, because through them, you learned to return to yourself. Because of their absence, you learned how to stand on your own. And through that very silence, you began to hear the voice of your own soul, something you had forgotten to listen to. As the Buddha once taught, when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. You don't need to change anyone. You don't need to make anyone come back. Just come home to yourself, with gratitude, with release, with a heart that holds no blame. And then, just live. Quietly, gently, present, smiling. Let silence remain your companion, a quiet friend, full of wisdom. If today's sharing has brought you calm or comfort, it is a beautiful karmic connection we're nurturing together. Please subscribe to Buddhism Seeds, where every video is a seed of awakening, planted with compassion and clarity. If this video has touched your heart, please like, share, and help it reach someone who may need a moment of peace today. And in the comments below, I invite you to share, when you face silence, what helped you walk through it with strength. I look forward to seeing you again in future videos, where every passing moment teaches us something new about the beautiful soul that lives quietly within.